The book of 2 Ezra chapter 6 verse 22 in the GNT. Planted fields will suddenly become bare, and full barns will suddenly become empty. Then the trumpet will sound, and sudden terror will grip the heart of everyone when they hear it. Friends will fight like enemies, and the earth and its people will be terrified. Rivers will stop flowing and stand still for 3 hours. Those who survive all these things that I have predicted will be rescued when I will bring to an end this world that I created, the elect of Israel. Then they will see those who never died, but were taken up alive into heaven, the elect of Israel. The hearts and minds of people on earth will be changed, new bodies for the elect of Israel. Evil will be destroyed and deceit eliminated. Faith will grow strong, corruption will be overcome, and truth, which has not produced fruit for so long, will make itself felt again. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Havushai, Wahara Kakodash. The honors of the elders and the apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the seeking to be the elect of the nation of Israel. They're scattered abroad amongst the heathen, some look like the heathen. Begin with the 144,000 preachers, teachers, and prophets. Shalom. And we're going to touch this famine. I got this video that we're going to hit real quick. We're going to let it ride through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. Alright, but as you see, when this famine hit, that's the point of no return. Our hell is going to break loose at that point. Okay, and that's how you know we're at the end. Alright, and we right here. And those who survive are the elect of Israel, who trust in the name of Yahweh Yahushua. Alright, who believe on the words of Yahweh and Yahushua, the truth. Alright. So you got right here, it says people will fight over food this summer. It's already starting. Now don't say, hey, it could be this fall. It could be this winter. We don't know, but we're going to wait and see. So when I said don't say, hey, don't sit back and wait. Or should I say, let me word it right. Don't hold this video to what it's saying. Okay, when it said it's going to start this summer, it may start this summer, it may start this fall, it may start this winter. But we know at some point it's going to happen because of food insecurity, as we just read in 2 Ezra 6. All right? The full storehouses suddenly being found not full is a shortage in the stores. And what did it say? And friends shall fight against one another like enemies. You see? All right? And that's going to be the point of no return. All right? That famine is going to be the point of no return. All right? That's how you know, hey, we right here, hey, we right here at the end, man. It's not the time to get sidetracked or none of that. You know I got to get the 2 Ezra 15. Because going into, hey, people not going to care about one another. All right? They're not going to care about anything. All right, got to get it. 2 Ezra 15 and 16. There will be great political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. There will no longer be free access to the cities because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. So it's going to be everywhere. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. You see? So people are going to fight over food. All right? They're going to do anything for resources. One more. 2 Ezra 8. And all this points to the end. 2 Ezra 15, 16 is the end time prophecy. 2 Ezra 6, what we just read, is end time prophecy. And it goes into the elect being delivered after that. And we get 2 Ezra 4. We'll play the video. We'll play about 15 minutes of it. I'll put the link to the video in the description box so you can watch the entire video. 2 Ezra chapter 6, I'm sorry, 2nd Ezra chapter 4 and verse, where is it? I don't think it's this far down. Let me see. Let me pull up my other phone, because if I go to it on this phone, it's gonna start acting crazy. I'm sorry, chapter 5. 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and 10. My fault. 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse, let's start at 9. Fresh water will become salty. That's going to deception. It says friends everywhere will attack one another. Then understanding will disappear and reason will go into hiding. See, there's not going to be any reasoning with people, any dialogue, and coming to an understanding during these times. People ain't going to want to hear none of that. All right? And they will not be found, it says, and they will not be found even though many may look for them. Everywhere on earth, wickedness and violence will increase. So for people who's trying to go to this state or that state, I'm gonna move from the city, go to the country. I got a bug out location. I'm gonna go to another country. Well, violence is gonna be everywhere on earth. Wickedness and violence will increase. Why? This is a global famine. Okay, it's going to be global chaos. One country will ask a neighboring country, meaning the people, if justice or anyone who does right has come that way. But the answer will always be no. You see? So it don't matter where you go, man. It's going to be straight up chaos, man. Oh, this is the good location over here. You want to be over here. This is the good neighborhood. They peace. Nope. It ain't going to be none of that. At that time, people will hope for much, but will get nothing. They will work hard, but will never succeed at anything. So people's hopes and wishes and things getting back, whatever they put their hands to, is going to fail them. Americans will fight each other for food soon. That's right. So I'm going to just play it, man. This is Finance Hour XP X7P. I'll put the link in the description box so you can watch the entire video. Well, I'm going to play the first 15 minutes. All right? Now remember, we've always told you all these things through the Spirit and Power of Yahweh Shema Shah. Shalom.
In Bangladesh right now, people are beating gas station managers to death over fuel. The Washington Post reported that attacks are happening every single day across the country's 3,000 fuel stations. People are forming massive lines driven by panic. And the panic is feeding on itself, because the sight of a line creates more panic, which creates a longer line, which creates more desperation, which creates violence. And the president of the Bangladesh Petrol Pump Owners Association told the Washington Post that some station managers have been killed. Killed over gasoline. And if you think that cannot happen here, if you are watching this from your living room in Ohio or Texas or Florida, and you believe that Americans are fundamentally different from the people standing in those lines, I need you to remember March of 2020, when Americans fist-fought in Costco over toilet paper, when shoppers pulled knives in Walmart parking lots over cases of water, when grocery stores had to hire armed security guards to manage the crowds in the paper goods aisle. That was over toilet paper, a product that is uncomfortable to live without but that nobody dies from not having. Now imagine what happens when the product is food. When the shelves are not bare of paper towels but bare of bread, of eggs, of milk, of chicken, of rice. Imagine what the parking lot of an American grocery store looks like when a mother with 3 children arrives at 7 a.m. and discovers that the delivery truck did not come last night because diesel is $5.37 a gallon and the carrier cut the route. That is not a hypothetical scenario. That is the trajectory that the current data is pointing toward for the summer of 2026. And the academic research on what happens when food prices cross a threshold and food availability tightens simultaneously is not ambiguous. The Center for Strategic and International Studies published a comprehensive analysis documenting the direct link between food insecurity and social conflict. The New England Complex Systems Institute, the International Food Policy Research Institute, and peer-reviewed studies published in Nature and Science Direct all converge on one finding. Rising food prices act as a precipitating condition for social unrest, converting simmering grievances into open revolt. The 2007-2008 global food price crisis caused social unrest in at least 40 countries. When food becomes scarce and expensive, people do not write letters to their congressmen. They fight, and that pattern is not limited to developing nations. During the pandemics, American grocery stores experienced a level of consumer aggression that the retail industry had never seen in peacetime. Employees were assaulted for enforcing purchase limits. Shoppers shoved each other in frozen food aisles. A man in Lowe's Angels pulled a gun in a dispute over bottled water. Security guards at Costco locations across the country reported daily confrontations over rationed products. A worker at a grocery store in Pennsylvania was punched in the face for telling a customer they could not buy more than 2 packages of meat. And that was during a period of income stability supported by stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment benefits, and expanded SNAP. The financial cushion that existed in 2020 does not exist in 2026. The stimulus is gone, the enhanced unemployment is gone. The expanded SNAP has been cut by $187 billion. The savings that Americans accumulated during the pandemic have been spent. Credit cards are maxed, delinquencies are at a decade high. And the food that people fought over during a period of relative financial stability is about to become more expensive and less available during a period of acute financial stress. The conditions for food-related conflict in America are worse right now than they were at any point during the pandemic. And the pandemic was the dress rehearsal. 47.4 million Americans are already food insecure, and the number is climbing every month. Before the Iran war began, before the Strait of Hormuz was closed, before diesel crossed $5, before fertilizer prices spiked 40% in a month, before any of the current crisis arrived, 47.4 million Americans were already living in households experiencing food insecurity, according to the USDA's most recent food security report, analyzed by the Food Research and Action Center. That is an increase of 3.2 million compared to 2022 and 13.5 million compared to 2021. 1 in 7 American households was already struggling with hunger before the war. 1 in 7 in the richest country in the history of the world. And the weekly SNAP allowance for a family of 4 is $192.84. The average national cost of a week's worth of groceries is $226.20, which means that even a family receiving the maximum SNAP benefit cannot afford the average weekly grocery bill. The gap is $33.36 per week, $133 per month, $1,600 per year. And that gap existed before food prices increased by the 5 to 8% that the war-driven diesel and fertilizer shocks are now generating. After the increase, the gap will be closer to $50 per week, $200 per month, $2,400 per year. And a family that cannot close a $2.400 annual gap between their food assistance and their food costs is a family that is skipping meals. That is a family where the parents eat less so the children can eat more. That is a family where the choice between protein and carbohydrates is made based on which is cheaper per calorie, not which is healthier. And the Century Foundation documented that 1 in 3 Americans, 34%, already skipped a meal in the past year due to cost. That was before the war, before the energy shock, before the fertilizer disruption, before the diesel increase, before any of the forces that are about to make food more expensive and less available over the next 90 days. 14% of U.S. households reported food insecurity between January and October 2025, according to Purdue University, up from 12.5% in 2024. In New York City, 40% of local families cannot afford their weekly food costs, according to data from Robin Hood and Columbia University. These numbers are not stable, they are climbing every month. And the climbing is about to accelerate because the forces driving it are accelerating. And here is the part that makes the American food insecurity crisis uniquely dangerous compared to other countries. In most countries where food insecurity causes social instability, the population is largely unarmed. In the United States, there are approximately 400 million firearms in civilian hands. More guns than people. And the Venn diagram between the communities most affected by food insecurity and the communities with the highest rates of gun ownership has significant overlap. Rural America, small town America. The communities where the nearest grocery store is 30 miles away and the nearest food bank is an hour's drive are also the communities where nearly every household is armed. The combination of food scarcity, financial desperation, and widespread civilian armament is a combination that no other wealthy country in the world faces. And the psychological research on scarcity shows that it narrows cognitive function. When a person is hungry, their decision-making degrades. Their impulse control weakens, their threat perception heightens. A hungry, financially desperate person with a firearm and a child who has not eaten since yesterday is not a person who is thinking clearly about consequences. They are a person who is thinking about one thing, feeding their child. And the social structures that normally prevent that desperation from becoming violence. Community support networks, church pantries, neighbor-to-neighbor assistance, government safety net programs, are all under simultaneous strain or active reduction. Food bank funding has been cut in half and the safety net is being shredded at the exact moment demand is surging. Newsweek reported that the USDA's Emergency Food Assistance Program, one of the agency's core nutrition programs that buys food from farmers and sends it to food banks, has had half of its funding paused. $500 million, paused, not reduced by 5%, not trimmed, cut in half. At the exact moment that food insecurity is at its highest level in over a decade and climbing. And simultaneously, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act cut $187 billion from SNAP over the next decade. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities estimated that 9 million SNAP recipients could lose their benefits entirely as a result of the budget cuts. 9 million people who are currently receiving food assistance being pushed off the program and into the arms of food banks that just lost half their federal funding. The math is simple and devastating. Demand for food banks is rising because food insecurity is rising. Supply at food banks is falling because federal funding has been cut in half. And the people who are about to be pushed off SNAP, estimated at 9 million, will arrive at food bank doors that are already struggling to serve the existing demand. Valerie M. Bruce, director of Washington College's Center for Environment and Society, told Newsweek that food banks already have a difficult time providing what people need with food insecurity growing. In the Farm Bill that the House passed on April 30th, by a vote of 224 to 200 failed to reverse the $187 billion in SNAP cuts. The Food Research and Action Center called the vote deeply troubling. The legislative vehicle that was supposed to be the opportunity to restore SNAP funding did not restore it. The cut stands, the food banks are operating at half capacity. The SNAP caseload is about to shrink by 9 million. And the food that remains available is about to get more expensive because of war-driven diesel and fertilizer price increases that have nothing to do with domestic agricultural policy and everything to do with a 21-mile waterway on the other side of the planet. And the food banks that are supposed to catch the people who fall through the SNAP safety net are themselves in crisis mode. Feeding America, the nation's largest network of food banks, has reported surging demand at pantries across the country since 2023. Lines at food banks in cities like Houston, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and Atlanta have stretched for blocks, with wait times exceeding 3 hours at some locations. And the volunteers who staff these pantries are themselves aging and shrinking in number. Many food bank operations depend on retirees who volunteer their time. And those retirees are themselves facing rising costs for housing, healthcare, and food. The entire emergency food system in America was designed for a baseline level of need that no longer exists. It was designed for the 30 million food insecure Americans of the early 2010s, not the 47.4 million of today. And it is being asked to absorb 9 million additional people pushed off SNAP while operating on half its federal funding. That is not a safety net, that is a memory of a safety net. And the people who arrive at that memory expecting to be caught will discover that the net is no longer there. And their discovery will happen in public, in lines, in parking lots, in front of their children, in communities where everyone knows everyone. And the humiliation of that discovery, compounded by the anger of having paid taxes and played by the rules for decades, is the emotional fuel that drives confrontation. Not with the politicians who cut the funding, with the person standing next to you in line who got the last bag of rice. Grocery shoplifting has become a survival strategy, and retailers are responding with Fortress TACTICS that make food harder to access for everyone. Walk into any major grocery chain in America and look at what has changed in the past 2 years. Locked cases over the meat counter, security tags on packages of cheese, self-checkout machines replaced by staffed registers because shrinkage from self-checkout exceeded what the labor savings produced. Entire product categories moved behind plexiglass barriers. Stores in urban cores closing permanently because theft levels exceeded what the insurance and the profit margin could sustain. And the National Retail Federation has documented that inventory shrinkage, which includes shoplifting, employee theft, and administrative error, reached $112 billion in 2023, up from $94 billion in 2021. The portion attributable to external theft has grown dramatically, with organized retail crime contributing an increasing share. But underneath the organized crime statistics is a quieter, more troubling trend. Individual food theft by people who are hungry, not organized rings reselling merchandise. Individual human beings putting a package of chicken in their jacket because they cannot afford it and their children need to eat. Police departments in multiple cities have reported increases in food-related shoplifting. Prosecutors in some jurisdictions have quietly deprioritized food theft cases because the optics of charging a mother who stole groceries for her children are politically toxic in an election year. And the retail response to the theft epidemic has made food access worse for everyone. When Walgreens closes stores in San Francisco, the people who used those stores for basic grocery access lose that access. When Walmart locks cheese behind glass, the elderly shopper who has difficulty asking for assistance or waiting for an associate to unlock the case leaves without the cheese. When a grocery chain exits a low-income neighborhood because the theft rate made the location unprofitable, the neighborhood becomes a food desert. The theft is a symptom. The response to the theft creates a secondary crisis. And both are driven by the same root cause. Food is too expensive for a growing share of the American population. And when legal access to food becomes unaffordable, illegal access to food increases. And when illegal access increases, the stores that provide legal access close. And when the stores close, the only remaining option is the food bank that just lost half its funding. The spiral is self-reinforcing. And it is accelerating into a summer where food prices are about to increase by another 5 to 8% on top of the 36% cumulative increase that already occurred. And the food desert phenomenon is not a coastal liberal talking point. It is a documented reality that affects rural red state communities as severely as urban blue state ones. When the only grocery store in a rural county closes, the 8-0 residents of that county do not suddenly have access to an alternative. They drive to the next county if they can afford the gas, at $4 a gallon, to buy food that costs 36% more than it did in 2019. Using SNAP benefits that provide $33 less per week than the average grocery bill requires. And if they cannot afford the gas, they eat what is available at the Dollar General or the gas station convenience store, which stocks processed food, sugary drinks, and shelf-stable items with minimal nutritional value. A family feeding its children on gas station food because the grocery store closed and the gas to reach the next one costs too much is not a family that is thriving. It is a family that is surviving. And families that are surviving are one disruption away from not surviving. One car repair, one medical bill, 1 week where the SNAP card runs out 5 days before the end of the month. One summer day when the electricity gets shut off because the bill was $165 instead of $120, and the difference went to groceries. When food prices crossed 40% in 2010, 4 governments fell and the academic data says America is not immune. Between 2010 and 2011, global food prices surged roughly 40%. Driven by a historic drought in Russia that destroyed 1/3 of the wheat harvest and triggered an export ban. In Egypt, grain prices jumped 30%, even with subsidies that consumed 8% of GDP. When the government could no longer buy its population's compliance through cheap bread, protests erupted in January 2011. Tunisia fell, Libya fell, Yemen fell, Egypt fell, 4 governments toppled not by armies.
But we're gonna stop it right there. We can stop it right there. I'll put the rest in the description box, the link to the video in the description box. And yeah, man, people will fight over food. Stay pretty, how much more? Shalom.